You are watching Around the Base Sports. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, follow us on our Instagram page, subscribe on YouTube. Here are your hosts.
I'm Drew.
And I'm Jack.
I'm Amon, and this is
Around
The Bay.
4. Thanks for tuning in on a Friday edition of Around the Base Sports. Sorry for a little delay. Things happen, but we are here. And man, we have a lot to talk about. As you can see, Jesse's not here. He's taking a little
break.
absence for tonight's episode, but we'll see him next week.
My mom paid for it.
But guys, man, we have a lot to talk about. We know as people have been watching, got some NHL, got the NBA, and of course the NFL draft that wrapped up last week. It was pretty enthusiastic, you could say, or transformative. But we'll get to I know the Niners. Their draft was a little weird. The Raiders got their future QB of Mendoza.
That's a bad draft for the Niners.
And we're gonna break it down for you the teams that made some interesting picks.
Like the Rams.
Like the Rams. But let's get to it with the postseason recap. So the people who have been watching, we got some matchups for the next round. For example, we got the Hurricanes and the Flyers. The Flyers perhaps just gave Crosby maybe the last postseason game in his career. Okay, sorry with the background noises. Drew and Jack are on the road, so in case you hear all the background noises, they're just on the road.
Yeah, with my computer not working, this is the best I can do right now.
Yeah,
I'm not my family.
So, in case you hear the background noise, that's what's happening. But continuing on, so yeah, as we know, we got the Flyers being the Penguins. Crosby, maybe his last game in his career. Who knows? Connor McDavid, I'm not even sure what to do with them. The Oilers lose to Anaheim in 6.
Yeah, honestly, I think Connor McDavid needs to get out of Edmonton and go somewhere else because you had your biggest chance to win a championship with the Oilers because you were there back-to-back years against the Panthers. You lost both, and all of a sudden the Anaheim Ducks stand in your way.
I know.
A duck.
Another thing to talk about, the Nuggets. A little shocker, losing to Ann Edwards. He got hurt, and for some reason, something must have happened because we thought, all right, Nuggets, they should close this out. Nope. In case you saw last night, Wolves move on. They'll take on the Spurs. For the Spurs, congrats to them. They got their first playoff win in a few years now. And so it's the Wemby era starting to kick off in the postseason. We know about the Thunder sweeping the Suns. Of course, everyone wanted kind of like the old dynasty against the new, but you saw what happened with the Warriors. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about. So what's some analysis you guys want to break down, both NHL or NBA?
Well, the NHL playoffs to me, so far, I know people are viewing the NBA more, but the NHL has been more entertaining so far. There's more games.
Yeah, I agree.
And things are going in overtime to make things interesting, and everybody likes to jump to those games.
I mean, there was one,
and I know the Warriors didn't make the playoffs, but this is just the NHL playoffs right now are more fascinating to me.
Yeah, in case you want to know,
I agree.
Sorry. Drew?
I agree with Jack. I mean, I feel like after watching the Flyers Penguins series, the Vegas Mammoth series, and the Oilers and the Ducks series, it's been more fascinating. But you know what? I like the NHL. It's pretty fun to watch if the NBA is not playing, But the NBA plays have been interesting too. So
Yeah, another thing we do have a game 7, maybe 2. We have Vegas and Utah going at it right now with Vegas trying to close it out. But the last of the real Canadian team of Montreal, unfortunately, could not close it out at home once again. Uh, once again, or sorry, yeah. So Montreal, the real Canadian team, once again couldn't close it out with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and now that's going to Game 7. And I mean, it's like I feel like Montreal, like as we know, that team was in the postseason. I think a couple of years ago. I mean, they were like almost like a wild card. They took on the Capitals. You saw that series one, but it feels like for Montreal, it's like they need to get out of this series now or never because if they lose, it's a bit of upsetting season.
Yeah, literally, the biggest chance was tonight. They were at their home crowd. It was going overtime. You look like you. They're also in a power play, and even they blew that. It's just they're just not when they have like certain opportunities, they're just not making them count. And like their Lightning goalie, I know he's like really good and all that, but like in just certain situations, you just got to make it count because if you're gonna play like that in your home crowd and you're gonna lose like 1-0, I don't know how you're gonna do on the road against Tampa Bay.
I mean, for another team we should talk about is Boston, the Bruins. They lose to the Buffalo Sabres. Congrats to them. They're having one legendary season. We should remember. But what do you guys about the Bruins? What's going like? What should they do? Is this like I know they've won a many Stanley Cups through their times, and they're trying to at least add some more, but it just feels like I don't know what it is. They have a great regular season, but when it comes to postseason, it just collapses automatically.
I mean, the Sabres were the better team, and also congrats to the Sabres for having like their first victory in like what over 15 years.
Something like that, yeah.
So that's it's just when in a certain game for the Sabres won.
Yep. Like a little audio.
Those games, they were like 2 goals of like goal like that. I mean, the Bruins got work to do in the offseason, but I mean, this is because Boston, they were like in the Eastern Conference in the Atlantic Division, they came in 4th. However, like the Sabres, they were the number 1 team in that group, so they're used to the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, so like I don't know what they need to fire their coach or do they need to reset because they had chances after chance. I don't know if the NHL is just too competitive. I don't even know what. I mean, Drew, I don't know if you seen some of that Bruins series? Drew, if you're with us, I guess no one Drew. Well, maybe a little technical difficulties with him. Probably a little busy at the moment. He's moved on the road.
I mean, he's cute though. That's just, and I don't know. I mean, he should have just like canceled his family thing and like just, well, like say, hey, we'll do it another time. But yeah, it's just the Sabres were the better team, and congrats to them.
Yeah, congrats for the Bows. I know, of course, Carolina. They were the second to advance over Colorado, sweeping the LA team. And speaking of that, a little in case if people don't know much about hockey, but there was a certain player for the LA Kings that was kind of their like superstar that's been there for a long time, and he played his last match as he retired after being swept. So, what do you, Jack? I know you know about this player, right?
About who?
The player from the LA Kings.
Kopitar?
Yeah, Kopitar.
Yeah, I watched this because I mean, being a Sharks fan, like I've seen this dude go up against Sharks many times, and it was always a good battle with him. And I remember when I first became a fan, I mean, he was like the top guy on that team, and every time it would be like Warriors. I mean, not the Warriors, the Sharks and the Kings, like in the playoffs, they would typically meet against him, and I mean, he was also the guy who was one of the leaders and when the Sharks blew a 3-0 series. And then the Kings winded up winning the Stanley Cup that year. So it kind of makes you think about like the Sharks, if they were to beat the Kings, would the Sharks have gone to the Stanley Cup? Would they have won their first ever Stanley Cup? And I mean, for I think what, 20 seasons?
Yeah, something like that.
I guess as long as Ovechkin, but even Ovechkin, he's still going, which I'm kind of surprised about.
Well, Drew, if you can hear us, what are your thoughts at least about the Bruins?
Um, I think I saw the first game when they scored 4 goals in the third period alone, and I thought, you know what, if Buffalo is this is a year to do something great, and I think Boston, I don't know, they always choke when it matters, like we saw in 2019 where they faced the St. Louis Blues, and they just I don't know, couldn't capitalize it. I guess every time Boston's in the playoffs, they always choke when it matters. So I think just them, like, over, I don't know how many wins they had in 2023. I know they were like the best team during that time, but it's like if you're a Boston fan, like sports wise, this is probably the hardest time probably the hardest time you have to go through right now, and during these 24 hour span.
Yeah, what do you think about Connor McDavid?
I think McDavid, I think he should get out of Edmonton. I think I think I like to say him right now, but I think him and Aaron Rodgers are the two, I guess, playoff choker when it matters, the two players that chokes when it matters. So they did great in the regular season, but they choked when it matters. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna stick with that statement.
All right, hear from Drew. Let's go a little more in the NBA. The Nuggets. What is the problem with them? Because you figured you let Jamie McDaniels and Julius Randle. I mean, Randle, he's been around enough, great player. McDaniels having his career high. Congrats to him. But the Nuggets, I feel like they were one of the favorites to try to perhaps win a title. That's what I felt. But um,
I'll say this: if you're a Nuggets fan, this was embarrassing. Embarrassing. You know why? Tim Wolves have like at least 3 starters out for the rest of the series, and you still manage to lose those 2 games that when it matters. And you let Io DeSumo score 43 points in game 4, and like, yes, you have Nikola Jokic, who is most likely to be MVP candidate almost every single year, putting up triple doubles every single night. And you saw last night, Jamal Murray, you know, had horrible game last night. And um it's just if you're a Nuggets fan, this was the worst thing you could have felt. And no one expected the Timberwolves to beat the Nuggets in 6, for example. And props to Jam Daniel, he backed up his statement where he said Denver have 4 terrible defenders, and it just he backed it up. That's all I'm gonna say.
Jack, what are your thoughts? If you saw the finale, Jack,
Yeah, sorry, repeat that.
what's your thoughts on the Nuggets game? What do you think the problem was? Why couldn't they close this out?
I think honestly, it was
Who?
like just. I think it was
Oh
coaching.
no.
One.
Sorry, no, Jack, continue.
Yeah, I think this was just an all-around team issue. I mean, Jokic he played really well, but like Murray struggled. But like you can't put all the blame on Murray. Like these guys didn't have that one score. I think it's IO something. I don't remember. And the biggest highlight of all of this, is Anthony Edwards was out. You had a chance. This was your biggest opportunity to come back down in the series. You were down 3-1. You won the next game, and then all of a sudden you just blown out. And Rudy Gobert played really well, but it's just if I were Jokic, I have a lot of thinking to do about the team if I want to stick with the Nuggets or not.
Sure, but
I'm not saying the Warriors should go for him, which is very, 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 very unlikely, and will definitely not happen. But if Jokic isn't happy in Denver, if I were a Nuggets fan, I'd be very concerned.
well, think of it. Think of it. We know he won a title. So I mean, he did the dream that everyone else always dreamed to join the NBA is to win it, to add a title to your resume. Always being a champ. It's like going to the Super Bowl in the NFL, which we'll talk about the draft shortly. But yeah, it's just when I saw that game, I'm like, well, this is just upsetting.
Yeah, but I mean,
I
in
mean,
Jokic though, Jokic is like one of the best players to play the game. What he has done, like, has been pretty unheard of by like any NBA player to ever exist. And I mean, yeah, you won one championship, but that's great. But don't you want to win more?
I mean, as we know the history of the Nuggets, there has been some greats on that team that had close moments. So that day, that year when they won it all against the Heat, it was quite a big thing for that franchise. It's like you don't expect the Nuggets to win so many titles, but it was great to see him winning that one. So I mean, Jokic, we'll see where that lies in the off season. Maybe something could be brewing. Probably not, but um, what else? Trying to think before we could move on to the NFL draft, which is a lot to talk about there.
What do you think about the game sevens that's going to happen
Right,
tomorrow?
yeah. Thanks, Drew. Yeah. So yeah, we have a bunch of game sevens. The Magic, a team that could beat the beast of the East of the Pistons, and they pretty much choked basically a 20-point lead to lose almost by double digits. I don't know what. That's crazy. It was like 93-78 where
79.
79 where pretty much almost vice versa, and that's not the Magic and dropped 93, but they could have if they kept with their game plan. So who thought Game 7 was going to happen? Drew, Jack,
I thought I was going to see at least one game seven.
thought
I thought I
one.
was going to see one game seven. Because I think the only reason why I said that is because the Cavs and the Raptors series have been the good series. I've been like, that series has been great, and I didn't expect Boston and Philly and Sixers being game seven, but
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I can't, like you said, can't, yeah.
like Embiid. I know we don't see that a lot from you. I know, as we know, if we see him more of his career, he's been quite injury prone. But it was, I think, now the thing of it, MB must have came the perfect time because he had a post game interview and pretty much he said, "I'm just tired of losing to the Celtics," and
The two cities don't like each other as it is in any sport.
it is a rival. It is a pretty much a rival that goes back. But just for at least Embiid, he's drafted by the Sixers, never left, and as you know, this franchise of the Sixers, they haven't won since Dr. J. Moses Malone. I mean, of course, in the AI era, AI could have maybe gave them a few more, maybe a couple more, but just as we know in that time, it was the Kobe and Shaq era, so the dominance of those Lakers. But anyway, just with Philly in general, it's like I'm happy. I'm actually happy this is a game seven because I feel like I'm kind of like with Embiid. I'm kind of a little tired of seeing Boston winning. It's like, and they're a great historic franchise, but they did it. They beat the Lakers when it comes to titles, and usually when that happened with Boston won, I kind of felt like, okay, no one's going to catch them. It feels like at this point the whole debate of, I mean, it's the most historic rival in like sports history, but for me, anyway, it just feels like I'm kind of like with Embiid. I'm tired of Boston trying to win, so I'm happy Philly's giving them a fight. It's like with Tatum returning, which was crazy of a recovery, and you can see he's almost like grown his abilities and strength. But just to sum it all up, what I've been saying, like I'm happy that the Sixers are getting the fight, and I'm kind of tired of Boston winning. That's just me.
Hopefully they can win tomorrow in Boston. They've been winning the
Great
last two games.
play-in team being a
A
play-in
two
team,
seed.
a two seed. Like in sports in general, we're getting something quite interesting because the NBA. And one last thing to wrap up before we go to NFL, and that is the Toronto Raptors. Who knew that was going to seven?
Yeah,
I
that
kind of expect it. I
first
kind of
off,
expect it to be 7.
first off, that shot that RJ Barrett made, you could try that shot like 10,
50
50,
times. 50
100 more
times.
times. That would never go in like that ever again.
Well,
Because the
wait.
way it like bounced, this is literally like the Kawhi Leonard 2.0
Yeah, I was
version.
about to talk about that.
It's like the 4 bounce
The four bounce thing back in the time
2019.
2019.
It
I
was
mean,
against the Sixers too.
yeah. So it's like, anyway, enough talk. We got a lot of game sevens. We're ahead to that second
We got
round.
hockey, you know.
Hockey. I'm just saying, you can see we're talking more about hockey and NBA. For people who are watching and ones who see this later, just stick with hockey. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, just stick with it for now.
All right, now time for the sport we missed so much, and at least it's like the biggest event since the Super Bowl, and that is the NFL draft. As that concluded pretty much Sunday, but really the Thursday was kind of the big day. That's when everyone likes to tune in. And we've seen some interesting decisions. A lot of trades, but no player for picks. It was more just pick for picks, trading up, trading down. And there were some interesting selections. Of course, not the number one pick. I know we haven't seen the Raiders the number one pick for a long time, but the Mendoza era begins now. As you know, the Raiders went berserk in free agency, and now I know that we haven't a franchise QBs has been on this Raiders team, but this is the future of the Kubiak era as well. And I feel like this is the brand new Raiders, and I am stoked to see how Mendoza does and the Raiders in general. Because might be. I want to say this is now we have opened a window for the Raiders. So what are your thoughts on, of course, not the most surprising pick of the draft, Mendoza with the Raiders?
If you guys didn't watch our reaction when Mendoza got picked, you missed out because that was probably the biggest ovation I've ever seen. Amon and Jesse and all the people I've been all like yeah, it was very interesting, and
Yeah, me and Noel were there too.
Noah was there too, but if you didn't watch our story, then you won't understand how much happiness and how much pride they had when Mendoza got selected.
Like for me, I know I wasn't so stoked, but it's just like it's the Raiders. But I'm like, can I actually feel? I've had so much false hope, but now this feels like maybe I don't have to feel like that anymore. I mean, I feel like it's just the window is open, and Mendoza could he be the franchise QB we've been waiting for? All right, so we got 2 Jacks in the field.
I finally got the computer working.
All right, so look at that. We're all our faces are revealed, folks.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm back home.
But yeah, like crazy. But we have an interesting pick.
But can I say something about Mendoza?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of an obvious pick. I mean, there was just no doubt of who the Raiders are going to go with. I'm glad the Raiders picked him, and I wish him best for his career. But well, we'll see how he does. And I mean, the Niners are going to be playing against him this year, which is the game I'm also going to be going to.
Mm-hmm.
And
we have playing to go. That's a group.
It'll be an interesting pick. I don't think he's going to
start.
Of course, yeah, he's not going to start, but
no, that's not at all what I was going to say.
Okay.
I mean, you guys should probably say he won't start, but I think I just want to see how his game's going to be with him, because he's going to get a bunch of advice from Kirk Cousins and all this other stuff. And I mean, learning under Kirk Cousins, I wouldn't have done if I was the Raiders, because I mean, Kirk Cousins, he's like a decent quarterback, but he's only had 1 playoff win in his entire career. Now, if Tom Brady was more of because I know Tom Brady has got minority, we're worried about it, more minority stake in the Raiders because of part ownership, I would try to learn from him as well during the offseason.
I mean,
that like Tom Brady, then you'll have a better chance of success, and you got to make sure The most important thing for Mendoza is you have to have a good line, and I don't know if the Raiders have a good O line.
Well, we know the story with that, but I think Jesse did mention it's not just Kirk Cousins. I think Brady as well himself might do some teachings to help him out, or little tips there. But I know we have a lot to talk about, so we're going to try to sum this up the best we can. But the next interesting pick, as we know, Drew and Jack, heavy Notre Dame fans. But unfortunately, the player they love got drafted by the Niners' rival, and is the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I think
Quite surprising.
this pick, honestly, to me, because like the Cardinals already have four running backs.
Yeah, Connor's
And now with the addition of him, now it's like 5 running backs. So you have like an entire running back carousel, but you still got no freaking offensive lineman on your team. Jeremiah Love is just going to get slaughtered. And also, Jeremiah Love is like the highest paid running back, and he hasn't even taken a single snap in the NFL. He's going to be making like $53 million, which is like absurd. But I wish he didn't get drafted by the Cardinals. And same thing for Jadarian Price, who's a backup running back for Jeremiah Love, who went to the Seahawks, which I think is really heartbreaking, even though I knew they were going to draft a running back. It was a good thing that they didn't take Jeremiah Love, because then that would be actually an upgrade versus having Kenneth Walker. But I don't think they should have done that. I think they should have went defense. They did draft a quarterback, Carson Beck, who I also don't like because he went to Miami. But they got no line, so I wouldn't. I mean, if you want to pick up Jeremiah Love in fantasy, you do whatever you want. This is when he went to the Cardinals. I wouldn't recommend it. But do as you will. I like Jeremiah Love. He's an Notre Dame guy. He came up short in the Heisman voting. I just wish he didn't go to the Cardinals. If he should have went to any team, it should have been the Giants or the Saints.
Okay, yeah, the Saints would have been a good move. Yeah, because for Drew's opinion, like where Love got drafted wasn't the issue. It was the team. Like this wasn't like a reach. It was just like, huh? You felt like
they just tried to go with the best player and like have no line.
I mean, pretty much it was like, if is there, take it. It's like in fantasy football or in the draft. If you see someone, even though you probably don't need, or like someone's going to take, you just do it. So it's kind of like that pretty much. It was just best available. It was there. Pull the trigger.
What do you think was like the dumbest pick in the draft?
Oh, Type Simpson go to the Rams.
Yeah, that's
the most interesting.
Probably that. Well, let me pull up the draft thing. All I know is the Niners did not draft well. I would talk about the Niners, but I'm not going to talk about them because I kind of understand. Well, I don't understand. I assume that they don't know what they were doing during the draft. Now the Niners, I heard according to sources, wanted to draft Casey Concepcion, who I wanted the Niners also draft, but the Browns took the Cleveland Browns took all of the good picks that I wanted the Niners to get. They took Denzel Washington. They took Casey Concepcion. They even took that Emmanuel McNeil guy from Toledo, who I wanted the Niners also get. But Niners just say, "No, here you go. Here's a free pick. Why don't you screw us?"
Know what a team we could talk about a little bit? And that's the Jets.
The Jets drafted like crazy. It's just your quarterback stinks.
Yeah, the Raiders. I mean, of course they've won. There's a lot of teams that won that did really well, but a team of a franchise that's like drought of, and it's so drought in your mind's contempt. They really knew what to do, and it's like, do you guys think the Jets are one of the teams that won the draft? It's hard to even say that because we know about the Jets.
Yeah, I mean the Jets are known to be like a poverty of a franchise because they haven't won anything since like Joe Namath was the quarterback. And even if you want to go back to like the AFC Championship game when Mark Sanchez was there, like just you could toss that. But the Jets, they're going to be much better this year. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be an improvement of how they were last year. Like I say, they're going to win like 7 games and like be short of the wild card.
Yeah, I can see that.
And if they didn't get Geno Smith and if they instead got Kirk Cousins, maybe I'd say they win 8 or 9 games. but they're going to win, to me, at a max 7.
I mean, of course. Of course. I mean, going back to the Raiders, I mean, we'll try to break down all the other teams, but just with the Raiders, they pretty much drafted their safety duo. Got the guy from Arizona and another safety. You got a center in the late rounds. I mean, even the drafting was well put for the Raiders. So it's just this moment of momentum. I feel I'm stoked and can't wait for this season. I mean, of course, of course, an idea we're probably going to do when the schedule comes out, which is this May. We're going to break it down, maybe do our predictions of
When is the schedule released?
I'm not sure yet, but I believe it's this month.
They usually announce. They usually like.
So
We'll probably do in June.
But that's a future topic. Well, there's the Cowboys. I mean, they drafted. Actually, no. Let's talk about the Chiefs. They trade up with Cleveland to get the best corner in the class from LSU, but there's a lot of skepticism about that pick. I mean, some people might say it was some people might say to reach a little bit to trade up. I know they lost Trent McDuffie. He got traded to the Rams, so the pick was right, but it just felt like there was a lot of skepticism about that pick. Would you agree?
Yeah. I think it's just I don't know. I guess they weren't like a fan of the pick. That's what I heard, and it was just. I guess they were just confused. Yeah, they're just confused as we all thought it was gonna be a different person.
I mean, we know, Mahomes is still recovering. He'll be back, I think, by mid-season or early season, and he picked up Justin Fields. So, but it's just that was a pretty interesting, not pretty interesting pick, but it's just there was a lot of skepticism with that. But at least that player, I guess. Just maybe they didn't thought it'd be that high, maybe at least mid-round, but congrats to that player.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, when the Raiders took that kid from the guy with the leg injury, maybe that could be the steal of the draft. Maybe his knee just winds up being perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. But
the owners and GMs just were overthinkers of the draft.
What I know we're focusing more on our teams. What are other teams that felt like they at least did well or play? I know we got Simpson to the Rams, but I want to know any other teams like the Saints, the Lions, any other team you felt did well.
Well, I think when the Eagles took Mekhi Lemon, that might have been the best pick of the draft, besides Mendoza. Because AJ Brown's gonna be leaving soon, at some point, within the next month or two. And then you get this kid from USC, also University of Spoiled Children, don't like that college. And just having the receiver like Mekhi Lemon on your team, I'm surprised that he did not get drafted way sooner. I like that the Buccaneers took Ruben Bain. I was expecting Ruben Bain to be a higher pick. I kind of was expecting the Rams to get Ruben Bain. And if he went to the Rams instead of Ty Simpson, I don't know what I'd be thinking as an Niner fan if that happened.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what do you think of some teams? Any surprising picks? Any team you felt like that did well in the draft?
Honestly, I don't know how the crap the Niners did not pick Denzel Boston from Washington. I thought that was the guy we're gonna pick. And instead, they picked a dude from Ole Miss, which is, not the greatest thing that we ever thought. Cotton is even more mad. But like I said, the Ty Simpson, the Rams. My cousin is a Rams fan. We were talking over the phone the next day, and all he said was, "Get this dude off my team."
Responding to us drafting Deshaun Stribling, I'm not gonna bash the guy because I'm sure he'll be a decent player, but here's the thing: Deshaun Stribling, he was ranked 15th in his position. 15. And you had Denzel Boston, who was ranked 4th in his position. The Niners are just infamously known to doing shit picks. They're known to be like they're like one of those kids at the dinner table on Thanksgiving and just reaching over people to grab food. That's what the Niners did in this round.
What? Like
The only good pick that the Niners actually did was not even in the first round or the second round
we know the Niners
or in any other one. Drafting Romeo Height is a pretty underrated pick. I heard, I'm hearing comparisons of Kayvon Thibodeau. That's quite a comparison to that list. But besides that, that's the only good pick they had in the entire draft. This was a poor draft by the Niners. The Niners, once the Browns drafted Casey Concepcion, their board pretty much got destroyed. They should have drafted Denzel Boston. Boston was the best guy available. He was the best candidate for the Niners. He was the best fit for the Niners. And Denzel Boston is, let's see, Deshaun dribbling, he's like 6'2", 207. But then how about Denzel Boston? He's like 6'3", 212. He's a big dude. And you don't draft that? I'm just convinced, I've been saying this for the people watching, my family, everyone else that knows me personally, you guys have known. I have been saying for a long, long time that John Lynch needs to get fired. And after this draft, if I was York, I would have fired his ass because the Niners, I saw the grades on social media platforms like ESPN, Yahoo Sports, Bleacher Report, and all these other guys. The Niners did not get higher than a C grade. They did not get higher than a C. That's passing, sure, but that's a horrible grade to get in the draft. I was hoping for the Niners to draft smarter there was so many other guys you could have drafted, and you just kept trading back and back and back and back and back. You're just taking one step forward. It was another 10 back. It's just these guys had no identity in the draft. I'm convinced that John Lynch was in his sleep while he was doing the draft. Or there was this video of some Niner guys and their kids. I'm convinced the kids were doing the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if the kids were doing it instead, because this is kid behavior drafting, and it's pathetic.
Well, knowing the Niners, as you mentioned about, are they doing the draft, or are they using perhaps a different software to figure out who's?
Yeah, maybe they're using ChatGPT or something, or maybe they're just
they're
just trying to tank at this point.
I saw a post on social media, and it showed about Shanahan. He didn't look happy when that pick was made, the very first pick in the draft.
He has a say. Just if you don't like the pick, say you don't like the pick.
We know.
Easy. You could have drafted that EMW guy from Toledo, and you'd have a good spot. Because I was begging them to get a safety, because you need a safety, because you got no one. And one of the guys that you were going to possibly interested in, Justin Simmons, just retired, so you can't get that guy. So you're not really the Niners. I want this to be safe for the future. If you see the Niners get burned at the safety spot, John Lynch is going to be the reason why. Because the Niners, they got the safety guys, and they drafted that one defensive back who's a tall dude, which I really like in that pick as a cornerback, but not a safety. You needed the key in this draft was to get a good receiver and a good safety. And what did you do? You got a very, very questionable receiver, and you didn't draft a safety. And when I was sitting down watching the draft, I was when the Niners drafted this guy, I'm like, who? I thought they just drafted a dude from space or something. Because I didn't know what. Also, who names your kid Deshaun Stripling? John Lynch. I trusted your process, but it seems like you're just trying to screw over this fan base.
Well,
it just really seems that way. Because if Deshaun Stripling does wind up being successful, I'll apologize. But if he's just a guy
that's going to be like, what's the one guy's Ricky Pearsall. If he's just want to be an injury-prone guy, he barely plays, and when he plays, he does pretty decent. But then when he doesn't play good, he just plays horrible. If he's going to be that guy, then this is a bust pick. And the Niners, I think you guys should get a different general manager. Anyway.
Or how about
You
this?
should keep the coach. Kyle Shanahan is a good coach.
You know what they should do?
But just John Lynch is not a good general manager.
Yeah, you know what they should just do? Let Shanahan be the draft. Because remember, he gave the Niners Mike Evans. I bet no one thought the Niners of all teams get the Mike Evans sweepstakes.
Yeah, Mike Evans came here wanting to win a Super Bowl.
And I think you're just on the fence because you were saying, oh, there's no moves. Makes one of the biggest moves.
Like the Niners are probably the number one team in the NFL. I don't care what anybody else says. The Niners are the number one team in the National Football League that is overdue to win a championship. They came up short. They came up short against the Chiefs twice, and you came up short in the playoffs against the Eagles. You get massacred by the Seahawks. It's just if you find a counterattack to the Seahawks and their defense, then you can get past the Seahawks and be a threat to the NFC, get past the Eagles. You get the Lions. The Lions are going to be a much better team next season.
All right, let's try
all these guys.
Let's go to different teams. Clearly, as we know, Jack is pissed off, and Drew is too.
John Lynch is not a smart guy at this point.
But let's think. Like, for example, you talk about safety. The Cowboys, they drafted one of the best safeties.
Cowboys drafted one of the best college players, and that's crazy that he went to the Cowboys.
You know how many Ohio State players? You guys do people know how many Ohio State players got drafted this class? It's crazy of how many. It's like almost watching Bama in a way.
Yeah, and the first 3 Ohio State guys in the first 7 picks went to Ohio State.
Yeah, a receiver that goes to the Titans. We know the one going to the Cowboys. Jerry makes a lot of moves. And, that's all I want to say because about that team, man. Everyone hates. Another team that's part of our team, the Packers, I don't understand why. I don't know what their grade they got. But I think they picked the teams that best fit for the Packers. They drafted the best available corner because he was it worked for our system. And they are the winner. They're one of the winners. I know they came in the mid-second round, but the way the Packers drafted is what we needed. I mean, they drafted well. I don't know what the grade they got, B minus. Heck, I feel like you should get a B plus, maybe an A, because they drafted what they need. That's how the NFL draft works. You draft what they need, what you need. And I feel like the Packers are amongst that teams that did that. And I can't wait to see them in action. As when the Packers picked up Lucas Van Ness, hopefully he can now finally get a breakthrough because he was one of our first round picks and he just hasn't really been there. I hope he does well. That's just a side note about that. You know what? Anything else to talk about? Any of your thoughts of the draft? Did we miss?
That's all I gotta say about them.
Just about the Niners.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. This is the most disappointed I've ever been in the Niners while drafting ever.
I mean, any other analysis of the postseason we might have forgot to talk about?
Honestly, let me check the update of the Lakers game.
It's probably still down by 20.
Lakers up 71-55 after 3 quarters.
Okay, so the Lakers are finally about to close it out to move on to the upsetting be a Warrior fan. But without further ado, hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for tuning in.